Well, we are still digesting the federal budget 5 weeks after the fact. Lots has been made about Australia's housing crisis in the wake of that budget. One group often left out of the conversation are the nation's renters.
Yeah, and with 3 interest rate rises this year, what's been the impact on tenants and when should they be pushing back? For more, we're joined by Sally Tyndall, a Data Insights Director at Canstar. Nice to see you, as always. It seems the housing crisis has created this real power imbalance between landlords and renters. How's it playing out in real life?
Yeah, it really has created that imbalance. What's happened, and you can see it on the graph, since 2022, we've had 17 standard rate hikes. We've had some doubles, we've had some cuts, but across the board, we've had 17 rate hikes. So landlords have gone, how are we going to recoup some of this money? We're going to see if we can lift the rents, understandably, because they're paying more to the bank in interest, right? But they can do this because of the housing crisis, because there's just not enough homes going around. Vacancy rates across the country are woeful. Like Sydney, I think, is one of the highest at 1.8%, and anything under 2.5% is considered critically low. And so that's the problem. Landlord puts the rent up. The tenant, it's not exactly like they can pack up and move to somewhere cheaper, because there's not somewhere cheaper to find.
That's right.
It's also really confusing because it's different when it comes to different states, isn't it, Sal? So when it comes to the rules that govern landlords, how often can they increase the rent and by how much?
It's so important to get across the rules in your state or territory, but by and large, landlords cannot increase the rent more than once a year. In all states and territories except the Northern Territory, you can do it twice a year there. And how much you can increase it by, that is different though. For most states and territories, there's no limit on how much they can increase the rent by, which is a bit problematic, obviously. In the ACT, it is actually capped. It's capped at no more than 10% on top of the growth in rental inflation in that territory. But what you can do when you get hit with an unfair, rental increase, you can take it to a tribunal. So important, again, to know your rights there.
OK, so a landlord is talking about putting the rent up and then off to the tribunal, or what are your first options there?
You say I'm off to the tribunal,
no, well,
let's go. No, okay.
Because I suppose many renters are just expecting to hear this conversation soon if they haven't already, right?
Yeah, exactly, because people are now expecting, because of the rules that it's once a year, people are expecting a rental increase once a year. They're waiting for that email to come through. You've got 60 days notice before the rental increase starts. But when you get that notice, just stop. Collect some bargaining chips. Understand what other properties are going for in your area. See if it's fair, but also write down all the reasons why you are a fabulous tenant, right? Why you might be, why the landlord wants you to stay. And then, this is critical, pick up the phone or walk into the real estate agent or go and have a chat to your landlord and have a chat to them person to person, right? Don't send off this terse email. First go. See if you can, get them on a good day. Talk to them as a real human. Hey, I'm having trouble, coping with this rental increase. What can we do about it? Think about how much of an increase you can actually afford. That's really important. So say your landlord's lifting the rent by $50 a week. Can you afford $25? Can you meet them halfway? But don't show all your cards straight away. Suggest something like $20 a week, and then you move up to that 25 mark, so both parties feel like they've walked away with a win.
What about things like maintenance? I mean, should you be documenting that in your property? Because when it comes to going to the rental tribunal, you need to build a case that you've potentially been hardly done by.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did say have a conversation, but document everything. Put everything in writing, ultimately, because you will need that if you do end up at the tribunal. And know that the clock is ticking when you end up at the tribunal. So say in New South Wales, you've got, I think it's 30 days before, after a rental increase notice, before you can raise it with the tribunal. So there's time limits in each state and territory. Get across that, document everything, because when you get to the tribunal, it's not like appearing in court. It's not as formal, but you will need evidence on your side.
And no one wants to go there. The landlord doesn't want to go there. The renter doesn't want to go there. So just have that conversation in the first instance, right? Get those emails going nicely. If you can't reach an agreement and you've got to move on, how much time are renters granted to make sort of other arrangements? Because some landlords can be brutal on this stuff, right?
Yeah, they really can. So you've got 60 days before the rental increase hits. But know that if you're in, say, New South Wales, you don't actually have to sign another fixed rate lease. So your fixed term is up, and it's a fixed term lease. I'm thinking about interest rates. Fixed term lease. So your lease is up, right? You can move on to what's known as a rolling lease, and that means that you've got to give them 21 days notice before you move out. Sometimes that can give you enough time to kind of, pay that extra for a short time, but look around for a property that suits you and then give them the notice.
Does that work in reverse too? So a landlord can come and say, I've got someone, you've got to be out next week?
Yes, such a good question. Look, there are a lot stronger rules in place across the country. It's slightly different across each state and territory about, when a landlord can evict you. Typically, they can't evict you with absolutely no grounds. They tend to evict you only if you haven't paid the rent, obviously,
right,
or if they're selling the house or they're doing major renovations. In some states, they can evict you at the end of a fixed-term lease, but not in all. So again, get across the rules in your state.
And unfortunately, it's not. It is rather illegal to withhold rent if they haven't fixed things in the property as well. So it's an absolute minefield, particularly for renters.
So important. If you don't pay rent for 7 to 14 days,
you're on the wrong side of this.
You could be up for a termination
So
notice.
be very, very careful. Thank you so much,
Thanks,
Sally. Great advice as always.